Hi, Journal. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for whatever time it may be for you. For me, it is 16:43 or 6:43. It's now 6:44 p.m. And it is January 10th, 2026, Saturday. I have tried to do this voice recording 6 times, or is it 7 now? And it's just one note. It's one note, but it's a long analogy, and I'm trying to get it all out there. So I'm just going to jump right into it. It is number 58. Don't let jealousy and envy keep you from growing. Use that passion and fire to further yourself with genuine curiosity and a smile. So I'm going to go into the analogy. Imagine that everybody's life is a plot of land or a racetrack. There are billions of these racetracks all around. There's so many you would never be able to visit all of them in a lifetime. You just can't. There's too many. And the ones that are closest to you might be ones that you see every day or every other day. Like your neighbors, you might see like little snippets while you're running, walking, jumping on your racetrack. You might catch glimpses of them and what they're doing on the racetrack, or your family, your friends, acquaintances, people that you see in their everyday. You might catch glimpses of their life snippets. You might be able to directly step into their life by going to their racetrack and sitting in their stands. The same way that people can come into your life and be there in your stands in support or to throw tomatoes and stones from glass houses. You think of your racetrack as a blank canvas. It is potential by itself. There's so much that can be done with it, or nothing at all can be done with it. You can choose to build on it. You can choose to skip to the loo on it. You can choose to do what you want with it. It's your life. It's your racetrack. It's your plot of land. You say one day, you're running on your racetrack doing what you do, and something catches your eye. It's somebody's racetrack, one that you never really noticed before, and you go over to it. You go to their stands, you sit in it. There might be some other people there might be nobody there. And you watch what they're doing. And you might get inspired. You might start to admire that person and what they're doing with their creativity, what they're choosing to do with their time, and what they're doing with their plot of land. You might even say, oh, I've never thought about doing that before. Maybe I should try and do that with mine. And taking like little bits of inspiration here and there. Now, here's the problem when you get a little bit too invested in other people's lives and their racetracks, their plots of lands. That admiration can very quickly turn into envy and jealousy. Right now, I'm going to focus on envy with the example I'm talking about. And you can constantly go to this person's racetrack, and it's like you can't look away. You're so enamored by what this person is doing that you start to spend more time at this person's track than your own. And you're not really working on your racetrack and your plot of land, so it starts to grow dust. It starts to grow cobwebs. And you're spending all this time at this person's track that whenever you go back to your racetrack, you're left with this feeling of lack. You see all that this person is building up into. You see everything that this person is achieving with their own plot of land. And when you come back to yours, you're kind of just like that comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy. It starts to eat away at you. It starts to consume you. And now, instead of thinking, wow, that person is amazing for being able to do all that with their creativity, I'm actually really inspired. I'm admiring that. And rather than just taking that and using it to fuel yourself and what you want to do, you start to feel envious and say, it must be nice. That person's really lucky to have all that creativity. That person is really lucky to have all that. Why can't I have that? Does that person think that they're better than me because they're doing this and that? Because they have all these things? Does that person think that they're better? It starts to eat away at you because you abandoned your own track. You abandoned your plot of land. And now that is starting to eat away at you. But you've already invested so much time and energy in this person's life that you've built a routine. Now you can't stop. You still go there. And you watch them exceed and excel further and further. And now that admiration that started, that genuine curiosity, and that smile, that joy, it's transitioned, it's changed because of comparison, whether that's your own internal comparison or whether people are just like, oh, hey, did you see that person's track over there? It's really good. And then they look at your track and it's just like, you could learn a thing or two from them. And that starts to eat at you too. But you're at that track and then one day something might just snap. Then you want to see them fail. You don't want them to succeed anymore. Because every time they succeed, it just reminds you of everything that you still haven't done, everything that you have yet to accomplish. You now no longer want to see what they can do. Now you want to see when they will fall. And if they don't fall on their own, you will be the one who starts to throw those stones from your glass house. Your glass racetrack that is filled with dust and cobwebs is the reason why you pick up that stone and you try and throw it at somebody's castle that they are building. Or your tomatoes. Tomato, stones, glasses, whatever. Shit. Where was I? Damn. Okay, I'm gonna pause. Right. Okay. So you might start, that person, they probably noticed you in their stands. They were probably really appreciative of their, of the support that you showed initially. Yeah. But then they start to see the change in you. They start to see that rather than supporting them, they see the way that you start to grumble and whisper, and that instead of celebrating at their wins, now you start to turn dark and stormy at their wins. You no longer celebrate with them. Now you want to tear them down. And that starts to affect that person. Now, maybe with those rocks that you throw onto their racetrack, you hope that disrupts them. You want to do that because now that you want them to fall, you want them to fail. So you're hoping that those become obstacles that make it harder for them to accomplish. You hope that that stone that you threw is the one that takes them out. But if it doesn't take them out, now they know how to deal with stones. So think of an immune system. You get sick, it has the opportunity and chance to take you out, but imagine you take a vaccine or your immune system evolves and it's able to adapt to that sickness that you got. Say you got a cold or something. I know you can catch colds because they change like their structure, so they are not always entirely the same. You know what? Let me not even get too far into that, okay? What's a freaking disease that like stays the same or something? Hold on, let me look that up. You know what? I'm just gonna call it a pathogen. I'm not even gonna go into, because I feel like if I go too into it, I'm gonna get too far off topic. So imagine that stone is a pathogen and you keep throwing these stones in the way of that person, hoping to eventually knock them down. But their immune system, their mind, they start learning how to adapt, how to handle it. They develop antibodies, antigens towards it. the T cells remember those stones. They're able to fight against those. They're able to adapt against those and get over those even quicker. And now that stone that you threw to hopefully tear that person down is now helping them to handle things better in the future. You're basically building them up. That might not have been your intention. Your intention was to tear them down, but you unintentionally ended up pushing them forward to better be able to handle things in the future. And I say this about myself all the time. I say, if you throw that stone hoping to knock me down, you better hope I don't get up. You better hope that one takes me out. Because if I get up, don't let me get up. You better hope I don't get up. Because you're not going to like it. Because when I get up, I'm going to be back as almost like a brand new person. And the same things will not work as well until they stop working entirely, or almost entirely. So there's that. And then that person on that track that you've been watching out of envy, that person starts to reach heights that you can't even throw stones at anymore. That person was building a castle. That castle has walls now. You can't even throw them into their racetrack anymore because they learned better. They learned, they evolved, they adapted. And that envy will ultimately only consume you. It has nowhere to go now. You can't continue to project it at that person who was outpaced you because you chose to spend all your time and energy there, that your own racetrack was left unattended. And now when you go back to it, you have nothing to show for it. All that time, all that energy. So now I'm going to go to jealousy. Jealousy, jealousy. Pretend I didn't do that. Right. Okay, so say that we are focusing on one of the people's lives in the Jumbotron, like a star, like a celebrity, like one of those people whose lives are broadcasted under the spotlight that I talked about in the beginning, where their racetrack, people flock to see them because they're doing such amazing things with like their creativity, their talents, their whatever they have going for them. People love to see what they're doing, and they either take inspiration and admiration, or they start to feel envious and start throwing stones and tomatoes. Now, this person, they are used to receiving attention and the energy from others, and they end up repurposing all that energy to fuel them, the good and the bad, and they transmute it. So the people who throw stones, like I said, they can use that and actually transmute that to something that benefits them rather than something that harms them. They're used to that, right? They've built themselves up really high. They've done really well for themselves. They have all these accomplishments, all these achievements. They're doing great for themselves. And then there is a up-and-coming rising star. At first, it's not really too much of concern to this person. I'm going to call this person Person A. This is one of the lives on the Jumbotron. Let's just call this person Person A. There's a up-and-coming rising star. Let's call this person Person B. This is the rising star. At first, they are doing their own thing. They haven't really garnered too much attention for what they're doing. And mind you, all of this is not like a competition. This is not all meant to like fuel comparison. It's just the way things are. When people are doing great things, when people are doing things for themselves, it just garners attention. Not saying that that is the goal or purpose. It is definitely the goal and purpose of other people to achieve fame and to achieve attention. But even if it's not, if they're doing something extraordinary, it will be noticed. Okay, so rising star person B. At first, they don't really have much attention on them, but they continue to do their own thing, and they're growing their plot of land. They are doing what they want to do with their racetrack. Then some people start to come into the stands. They, like the first story with the envious person, something caught their eye. They come to the stands, and now they're just like, whoa, like, this is actually really interesting. Like, I'm actually really impressed. I'm admiring this person. And they start to attract more attention like that until suddenly they have people on the regular coming in to their stands to see what they're doing. And then they might get a screen on the Jumbotron. It's not super big quite yet. It might be a channel that doesn't get much traction. Like, let's say, compared to person A might be on a channel that gets the most traction, let's say. Person A doesn't really pay too much mind to this person just yet. But over time, they will, and not for the best reason. Now, I'm not saying this happens to everyone. This is just the example of jealousy that I'm using. So, going back to person B, I hope I'm making sense because I know I just jumped around there like in the past minute, but I'm going to get back on track and hopefully it makes sense. So, going back to person B, they're doing their thing. They're starting to gather an audience. And they get a channel on a Jumbotron. It's not super high ranking. It doesn't get much traction, but they have one now. And people will stumble upon it and they will tune into it. And they might like what they see, and now they want to hang around, and that person starts to go up the channels. They start to climb the rankings higher and higher. And they're still doing their own thing. They're excelling. They have potential. They have talent. And they're using it. Now, say some people from person A's stands start to notice this rising star all the way across the way, and they start to become intrigued. And they want to go see what's going on. They want to go see what all the hype is about. So they go. I'm not saying that they permanently leave, but they're curious. They want to see what's going on. They go over. They like what they see. They stick around for a little bit. Maybe not permanently. Maybe they go back to person A's or maybe a different person's. But now people are more aware of this person. Oh my God, Cleo, are you good? My dog is doing dog things. Anyway. All right. Sorry. Hold on. Let me pause. Okay, I'm back. Cleo has decided to be on the bed with a sock. Great times. Okay. So. Oh my God. Where was I? I took too much time. I lost my train of thought. Okay, wait, no. I got it. Okay, so. Person B, they're starting to maybe share audiences, I guess, with person A and with some other persons who are also on the Jumbotron with their channels and stuff. That's all cool, right? Like, sometimes you have people that have like the same, you have artists all the time, right? Who have similar fans. I'm not going to really say any artists here as an example, but there are artists who share fans. That's just how it is. Anyway, person A starts to notice they're not really too concerned about it. They have their own thing going on, and that's great. But they notice that there are a lot of people paying a lot more attention to this person now, and now they have like this little fear in the back of their brain, and now they're worrying about being replaced by something new, by something fresh, by something up and coming. And that fear will, over time, multiply if it's not really regulated, if that person is not secure in what they're doing, regardless of outside external validation, because they've gotten so used to this attention from others that they just expect it now. That's a part of their life, rather than just focusing and building on what they have and their work and their craft. The stand members have become part of their identity. So that fear of losing them to something new, to something smaller, to something that's not even as big as they are, that fear starts to multiply. Because jealousy is a fear of losing something. They start to become jealous of losing and it's not even really losing, that's just their perspective. They're starting to become jealous of losing their fans, the people who would be in their stands. They're starting to spend a lot more time over at person B stand. That jealousy starts to consume them, and now they feel the need to stamp out a light. Someone who was very much like themselves, on the up and coming, on the rise. Now they feel threatened by that person, and they want to stop them before they get up to their level, and they feel like they will be surpassed and replaced by them. So their stones are obviously a lot bigger than just like another person, like say like the person from the first story, much bigger than their stone, because that stone has a lot of weight behind it. Person A's stone. So when they throw a stone at person B, that shit will rock up their whole world, basically. And they have like a lot of maybe dedicated fans in their stand, person A. So person A, feeling threatened, might send these dedicated fans, the ones that are yo, my dog is so funny. She's okay. Let me not get distracted by her again. Let me pause. Where was I? Let me pause. Okay. So person A might send like a few dedicated fans to go and throw stones, because they feel like that person B, is not worth too much of their time, energy, and effort at the moment, because they're still small, they're still growing. And those people's stones, they knock them down a bit, yes, but like I said, if they're able to rise up, overcome, and adapt, and they don't let it stop them, they're going to be soaring, because stones like that will not have the same effect anymore once they get used to them, and once they start growing, and once they start evolving. Once they're able to overcome, once their immune system recognizes those stones, they don't have the same effect anymore. They don't carry the same risk. Now, they're growing even faster, because when you try to stop someone, you might unintentionally be propelling them to even greater heights. So now cutting back to person A is really starting to worry now, because that little bit of energy and effort they sent their way to stop that person has now turned into a problem, because that person is now getting bigger and bigger, and now that fear and that jealousy is multiplying. It is starting to consume their thoughts, rather than focusing on what they've been doing to get where they've gotten thus far and focusing on their craft. Now they're starting to focus on that person's craft, on person B's craft, and what they're doing. And it's starting to show. People are starting to notice, because they're not giving the same care into their craft as they did before. Or or what? Hmm. Sorry, I just went quiet for a long time. This is what I've been doing the pauses for, so I would stop doing that. Well, that was a lot of movement just there. I see like the red bars is spiking. That was loud. Okay. So, now this person decides to take some initiative themselves and they throw their own big stone. If person B is able to overcome that stone, imagine how much further that's going to propel them. Shit, they might even be able to use that stone and use it to reinforce their own castle walls. If that's what they're building, if they're building a castle like the first person was in that first example with envy, they chose to build a castle. If person B decides to build a castle, they can use that giant stone that person A used to tear them down to instead reinforce their own walls. And basically that's how jealousy works, though. Because person A is starting to become very fearful. Because now they feel that fear of losing something. They can see that people are no longer as interested because they've stopped putting so much time and care and energy into their own craft because they're so focused on someone else's. I mean, and also because they are really reliant. They've become really dependent on all this external validation and attention that it became part of their identity. So to see people shifting their attention and gaze towards this person B was a very scary thing for them. And they've only furthered that fear because they allowed it to consume them. And now they would be what's considered, quote unquote, fallen off. They fell off. And they basically manifested their fears into reality. And now they really were replaced, not because that person was better, but because their fear of being outdone, outshined by this person who was up and coming, this person B who was a rising star and who is still focusing and fulfilling their own crafts and their desires and adapting and overcoming, they kind of got overwhelmed by that shine and consumed in it, consumed in their own fear. Not really too much I want to add past this point. This was a long one. This analogy took a bit. That took a lot of energy out of me. God damn. I was trying to make sure that I made sense out of it. I started trying to do this video at around 5 something. Around 17:20 something or something. And now it's 19:15. Now it's 17. Oh my god. My brain is turned into mush. I started this basically at like 5:20 p.m. and now it's basically 7:16 p.m. So I've been trying to get this out there for like 2 hours. And I think I like where I'm leaving this off at. So if you like the video, if the video resonated, like the video. If you feel like commenting, do it whenever it feels right, whenever you're ready. And if you want to follow, you are more than welcome to do so. It was a pleasure having you here for this long if you stayed. Have a good night, good morning, or good afternoon. Bye.